Let's get started.
All right, and we're started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our new Altacast for 2021. We made it a year. Congratulations, everybody. I'm blowing out my mic, so we'll see how that sounds. So, my name is Boramy. I'm the lead designer for Township Tale, for anybody who doesn't know. And
And I'm Joel. I'm lead programmer for both those who know and those who don't know.
I was almost going to introduce myself as Joel, like when I was starting to say it. I was like, my name is Joel.
It's natural. It's natural envy.
Yeah, it's just my... it's a Freudian slip. Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so new year, new sets of work for all of us to be doing.
New year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I got a haircut.
Oh, wow.
Not a huge fan of it, but I'll let it grow back out.
Yep.
And yeah, so today's topic is going to be about missions and I guess pseudo quests, and maybe we'll get to talking about some player-made quests. But we kind of wanted to talk a bit about how about a procedural adventuring system that might come into play for the game. So that's my lead-in. All right, so.
Well, this just for a little bit of context.
I'm slowly remembering the format of the Altacast, but go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, well, I mean, we're skipping what we're doing. We're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, we're skipping that.
Okay, so for a little bit of context, we're currently working on quite big features, namely house building, and we want to do a full Altacast on house building further down the line when it's less speculation and sort of theoretical and a little more practical and grounded in what we've tested and done. So in the meantime, we're going to be thinking about some of these smaller, cool aspects that might play or will hopefully play a part in the future, but aren't necessarily huge features in and of themselves. So.
Yeah, and they're not quite as upcoming. So this particular Altacast is going to be more on the slightly brainstormy. Like Joel and I've talked about some ideas a bunch. There's some things that that we haven't agreed between each other yet on some things that so that's why it's a bit more theoretical. Like it's not like we're talking about something that's completely undesigned, but it's something that we haven't explicitly said, okay, this is the way we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get into it. All right, so quests and missions. Traditional role-playing games and MMOs and multiplayer RPGs and whatever MOs.
Hi there. My name is Joel. The bears took off with my daughter. If you could collect them and bring me 7 bear pelts to prove that you have killed them, and bring my daughter back, of course, too, I will pay you 1,000 gold.
I thought you said doorknob.
What?
I thought you said the bears took my doorknob.
I said daughter.
Yeah, so that's kind of a traditional-ish quest of like a traditional fetch quest of killing 10 bears.
That would be a kill quest.
Yeah, it still feels
killing is a kill quest.
It still feels it still feels the same as a fetch quest where you just have to go somewhere and
bringing back the bear pelts is the fetch quest. Yeah,
or like collecting grass or something. There may be elements of that, but we don't like the structure of this sole NPC's experience is to tell you to go get pelts.
Yeah.
That character is always going to be there to give the next person to tell the next person the same story.
Yeah. That's the big kind of oddity of MMOs is they tell you you're all part of a world together, but really you're not, because you may as well be in separate worlds with just visions of each other. Because you're not affecting the world. You're not your world, your version of the world even if I'm standing right next to Boramy, my version of the world might have this guy crying for his daughter who the bears stole. Whereas in Boromy's version of the world, he's already done that quest, and in some cases, the daughter might literally be sitting there. Like, depending on the game, these can be quite different. He could be talking to someone. He could be talking to the daughter to get the next quest, and I'm like, "What are you flipping doing?" And he's going, "I'm talking to this girl here." I'm going, "I don't see a girl." And then he goes, "Have you done this quest?" Like, uh, it's very acceptable because that's how we expect MMOs to work, but it's not.
It's not the Township way.
It's not the Township way. Yeah, it's just not the. It's not the vibe we really want to go for.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it kind of harkens back to one of the early philosophies we had about Township Tale, is that um, uh, not everybody is the chosen one. That kind of like encompasses like uh, MMO quests where there's this huge like narrative structure behind it about how important this event that you're doing it is and why you
are the
needed to
most
do it.
important person.
And then there's like a line outside of this cave for people waiting to like pretty much
To be the most important person. Yeah.
It's, I mean, like I know there's no line, but it's what it feels like. So, in the Township Tale, you're more of a human player existing in this world, and anything, some of the mission encounters that we plan to generate as part of the game are going to be a bit more immediate than you might be used to in a traditional quest. So you're not going to be necessarily going through this incredibly long arc that has a lot of great weight to the world. It's more so going to be about you dealing with encounters to encounter, and part of the thing that makes it, I guess, gives it a bit of mission structure in our perspective is that it might lead you to another encounter and to another, into kind of maybe creating like a 3 to 5 mission chain, I suppose.
Yeah.
And that allows us to kind of let us place it anywhere. That's how we're thinking of designing the system, is that it's procedural, that it can happen based on the biome or based on the environment that you're in, but that anywhere within that region is how it can happen. So you're not always going to go to the same spot for that quest.
Do you want to give an example? Because people might be a bit confused because they know that, for instance, they have to do the trials to upgrade the smelter. So they know that there's missions or quests or goals in the game that even exist now, and obviously there'll be more of in the future, where they're progressing the town, like even repairing the bridge up the stairs up to the blacksmith could be considered a mission to some extent. And we're obviously not going to see the repair the stairs to the blacksmith mission randomly throughout the world. Like, that doesn't make sense. So there's this kind of distinction between things that are kind of more overall story progression, and then there's these, and that's kind of shared between all players, and then there's this thing Boromy's talking about where it's kind of on the fly, you come across these missions.
Yeah. So trying to think of how to describe one that isn't going to be too spoilery in any way, because there are some art related around quests and missions.
Yeah. I don't know what you're planning, what you're happy to say or not happy to say.
Yeah.
But...
so you might come across a fairly simple one that I can describe in fairly generic terms. You might come across a creature that's been captured by like a sentient creature in the game, and it might be getting transported somewhere. So that's how you're kind of coming across them in the wilds, and then once you've defeated those enemies, then you might have freed that creature, and then you might have to escort it back home or something like that. And then once you get to its home, you might find it might give you an item or something like that it will then lead you to like some kind of ruins that you can interact with to enter this almost like mini trial type of encounter that's got a bit more structure. But the only way you could have gone into that ruin is through that quest line. So they're very much directly linked. And we kind of want to separate it from it just being a one-off encounter. Like you might feel trials or just like a cluster of enemies might feel. Um, and on top of that, one thing that might distinguish them from the random encounters you come across is that they might give you a certain type of resource that you can only get from this from mission type encounters. I don't want to talk about what that is just yet because it's still that's in another realm, but it's going to be something that is generic across mission types. So,
but that sort of thing, so that creature that's been captured, if I were to come across this and then say to Boramy, hey, you should go out into the forest to this location so you can do this quest, would you be able to go there and see this same creature captured? And
I mean, like, if you hadn't done it yet, I could, like, but if you done it, no, I wouldn't see it again. So it's like the enemies that you've killed and the creature you've freed at that specific point in location are not gonna respawn in the exact same spot for the exact same encounter.
Yeah. So it's kind of, so there might be another situation in the forest at some other stage that you could do, but because I already did this one, you can't do it anymore. Yeah.
So there's elements to that where, you know, we'll find ways to track who's kind of contributed to the mission in some way, because I think there's a like, people don't like the idea of missing out on stuff, and I think the more procedural something is, the less reliable the idea of you kind of grinding for quests is in the game. So like, there will be a way for you and your friends to do one quest together. It's not going to be like whoever got the last hit on the creature gets the experience. We're going to find a way to calculate everybody that's involved in the mission so that you can collaborate on it together, because that will enable us to make harder missions as well, if collaboration is required.
And I mean, it's similar to MMOs to some extent, but so different ones of these quests would have different lengths, different difficulties, different kind of activities involved. So you might come across a mission which is clearly quite combat intensive, and so it might not be the sort of mission you're after at this stage, or it might seem like a long trek that you're already doing something you don't really want to sidetrack, sort of deal. But you might choose to come back to that later, and or go get some friends and come back to try and take it on. So there's this. I think there'll be a little bit of like a persistence to these things. Like, it won't be if you walk away, you won't be able to come back and do it later. It'll stick around until someone, whether it's you or someone else, kind of fixes that problem, solves that mission that the world's kind of presented.
There might be a bit of a sense of expiry, because there's going to be, I guess, a general pooled amount of quests existing in the world at one time.
Yeah.
If no one wants to save the creature and they just want to like let it rot in the cage, eventually the creatures capturing it will do what they wanted to do with it, and then you'll get something from it.
Some of those quests might have kind of natural timelines to them to some extent. Like that creature captured in the cage, maybe it gets taken to a cave somewhere, and once it's in the cave, it could even turn into a different quest. Like, it could turn into like these creatures around the campfire eating their meal, enjoying their hunt or something, and it's a different quest or different mission at that point. Maybe it's not even really a mission. It's just you can kill them all and maybe try and get some of the meat yourself. But so like, these things could naturally progress. But if no one wants to do one certain mission, we obviously don't want the world just filling up with that sort of mission, because no one's ever doing it. So
it would be interesting if, like, this is a bit of a higher level concept, but if you if the first quests that appear are always kind of like these short transient quests, like a creature getting moved somewhere, but if you ignore all of those, then the quest difficulty progresses to, like, now the creatures are in the cave and having a feast, and now they're in a more fortified position, and then if you let them be, then like maybe that the population of those creatures grows across the world or something like that. Um,
Yeah, something I like uh, in Gloomhaven. I'm not sure if I've mentioned Gloomhaven on an Altacast. I'm playing Gloomhaven. It's a board game right now, and it's got aspects where certain you come across certain events in the game, and depending on your choices in those events, it just you take these events randomly from a deck. But depending on your choices with these events or different missions that you do in the game, it adds more cards to that deck. So now there's a chance that you'll come across um, some other sort of mission. So anything along those sorts of lines where you can feel the world naturally changing is really cool. Aspects of like to start off with, there could be a small set of things that happen, and maybe as the town progresses, in some sense, or maybe I don't know. Once this certain boss or something is defeated, it could add a whole collection of new sort of missions and encounters that you can come across in the forest.
yeah,
So you really have this sense of uh, it's not all there at once to start off with, but you could be playing the game for a while and then start coming across these things that you've never seen before, and you can kind of see maybe why that exists now. Maybe you can't directly tell what triggered that to start spawning, but these sorts of things that can yeah, really change up the experience.
yeah. I think it's because of the structure of like missions between like started, progress, and complete. It's really easy for us to, I guess, know that you've completed something. It's not like we're gonna be kind of tracking necessarily like individual enemy kills. Um, it's more like, okay, this quest has been complete. Now we know that like we can increase this kind of world stat up.
Yeah,
Because the thing about these systems is that it's really easy to for it to like lose its balance and get out of skill, where like does killing one of these creatures in the cave affect this stat or anything like that. And I think for these particular types of things, we might keep it to something as easily recognizable as like a quest completion,
yeah,
just so that you can feel that there's that impact. And that way, when if when you have your local township meeting, you can ask like who's been completing quests against like this creature, because uh, we're seeing this type of trend and behavior in
yeah,
the world.
yeah.
And I think that would make it a bit easier on our side as well, if to do it quest wise, um, and as well as give like a bit more of a unique reason why you should do quests as opposed to just kind of fighting random enemies you come
Yeah.
across.
Yeah, I think in a lot of games, the thing that can kind of lose its value is the kind of the reason you're doing these things. And I think if you know that you're potentially changing the world in some sort of way by making these changes, it can kind of add more of that value back. Knowing that, yeah, defeating this creature will lower the spawn rates of this really annoying. So, like defeating this boss or doing this mission might decrease the spawn rates of this kind of pestilent creature that you don't really want around the place. It's just a nuisance. Um, or doing this other thing might, I don't know, have uh, maybe there starts being like, because not all quests need to be combat, right? There could be quests
Yeah,
which are like um, picking a number of flowers in a section, like finding every flower in a grove before, I don't know, before the end of the day or something. Like there can be like completely non-combat focused things, and the tone of the missions could even shift to kind of like you might feel that things are more peaceful recently, or things have gotten more and more. There seems to be these things attacking the world, and that vibe could change over time just based off kind of whether you're keeping things under control or not.
yeah. Um, so there's a yeah that will kind of drive. So I think we can we'll expect the first iteration of missions to be a little um, on the smaller scale of experience, um, because I suppose like whenever we do work and release this, um, we'll probably just try and release like the concept of the structure before we spend too
Yeah.
much time creating quests. Um, Creating quests is usually something that's very like handcrafted. It's very scripted in its nature, and like all things that we do at the company, we try and make things more scalable because of our team size, and so that it's more repeatable and more enjoyable for the players. Um, so like variety and stuff like that is something that can grow over time. But another component um, of quests and missions is that we eventually want players to be able to um, mark their own quests.
Yeah.
This might come in a different form. Obviously, like there's no like you're not gonna go and bury treasure in places to kind of create a quest for people.
I mean, yeah, you could set up a fun treasure
Yeah,
hunt for people,
you could
but
set that up actually. Like
it's not the same sense as I think the real reason the question is like why would I want to set up a quest? Like what's in it for me? Set obviously if I bury treasure, there's nothing in it for me. I'm literally spending time to lose loot to another player.
yeah,
Whereas I imagine some quests like um, if we have concepts of kind of enemies getting out of hand, like populations of enemies getting out of hand, or even these missions affecting each other in ways like the spawn rates of other missions, then it could make sense for me to go. I want someone to go and do something like clear this section of forest, um, or complete some of these particular missions because that will, I don't know, do something good in some way for me.
yeah. Like so this is where I've got ideas that aren't confirmed between the two of us.
We haven't talked too much about player made quests, but yeah,
Um, so in a in a lot of media, and I say media as in like, um, it's like a very anime trope type of thing, to have a adventurers guild, and they're the ones who kind of manage quests that everybody completes.
yeah,
Um, and the way that I like to think about player made quests is that there's this meta structure inside of the guild that uh, is given rewards and bonuses based off of marked quests being completed. And so for us, if we were to implement this, there'd be a balance between like so as an enemy, as a player, sorry, I might come across this like uh, this cluster of creatures that maybe are like special in a way that they have like elemental attributes or modifiers on them that make them a bit more of an elite creature, and
yeah,
I can mark them as a target, and then the game will, and then once I like using like a spyglass and like a quest charting book or something like that, and then when I bring that back to the guild hall and put that in as a quest, the game kind of calculates the value of that quest based on the context of it. It can try and gauge like how difficult that creature is to kill, and like if it's already damaged or anything like that. And so this like that way there's kind of this uh, reward loop of people marking quests before they complete them. Um, this is something that we have to kind of try out in practice to see if it like works on like a social construct
yeah.
level.
There's some interesting things that, like at the end of the day, the question is kind of where the value comes from. Because if I go and kill this creature, do I get experience or money or what? And where does that come from? Like, is it coming from the game world? Is the game world like encouraging players to do these quests through providing a
Yeah,
like a source of money, or is it players paying each other to do it, or?
I mean, I think I think the game world has to give a reward.
Yeah,
Like, I don't think we can completely rely off of like players providing rewards for stuff, because they might not be enough intrinsic item value to kind of want, like, if maybe someone doesn't want to store this up for a reward, like they don't really want
yeah,
it for anything, but they want to do the quest anyway. So we like providing a reward for that, like us providing a reward to players is important. I do know what the reward generally is, but it's the same kind of reward as the missions that we're planning, so I don't want to. And that taps, like,
yeah,
the reason I don't want to talk about it is because it taps into a system that we haven't ever discussed publicly. Um,
yeah.
and so I'm waiting for that. I think Joel knows what it is, but it's
Maybe, but not right, not in this session. No.
yeah, like if I were to bring it up, he would know.
But yeah, I think there's cool aspects in, like, if you could make a job out of, in this situation you've mentioned, some sort of elite creature or um, some sort of challenge. It could be cool that players can spot these things and that they're getting rewarded for it. So I could set my job, like
Yeah,
my kind of job on the server could literally just be, I'm not a combat person. I'm just like
a scout.
a scout for these sorts of
Yeah,
challenges. Yeah.
yeah. That's
Um,
precisely the type of, like, within the Adventurers Guild Hall to have those kind of like sub roles.
yeah. And then you could have, yeah, like, I don't know, there could be like missions could show you who the scout that found them was.
Yeah,
So if you're really struggling to like find the best way there or something, you could try and contact that scout and be like, "Hey, can you take me to
yeah. Take me to the quest marking. That'd be cool.
the
Like
quest?"
I almost see it as a class in the same with the, like we talked about cartographers,
Yeah,
where it's not necessarily something that has like lots of skills related to it, but maybe there's like a certain kit and loadout that's optimized for that sort of experience.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That sounds cool.
and that way it's like it's almost kind of like a side gig that somebody has. Like it's kind of like having a like a certification for like first aid or something like that. It's not
Yeah.
it's not everybody's life, but somebody just has it because they did the training and
So you could be a
qualified.
woodcutter who spends a lot of time in the forest. So
Yeah,
you're naturally in this environment already. So you're just keeping an extra eye out to make that little bit of whatever this reward is on the side,
yeah.
on on your way to get wood and stuff. Yeah.
There's almost an element of like uh it like well it almost gives us the opportunity to kind of grow out the concept of uh, meta-ish roles, because it's very much existing within like this in-game structure, um, but like the idea of a scout could be made a bit more official within the guild structure, where you could, depending on, like, maybe if you're starting out as a scout, you can't mark quests that are too difficult,
Yeah.
and so you have to kind of start off by marking easier quests, and then, like, as other people complete your quests, you start to rank up, and then you grow ability. So when you do see when I do find out that, like, oh, Joel's like this is one of the quests that Joel marked, he's a S rank scout for the guild.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna like
S is for shy.
um
Joel, that's a tree. You idiot.
defeat the tree.
There's also, like, there's a lot of things come to mind with the idea of an adventurers guild. I kind of like the idea of something like this feeling like a club on the server
Yeah,
almost.
it's,
Like,
it's like a
I
country
almost
club almost. Yeah,
I like the idea. I mean, not everyone might. Might be controversial, but personally, I like the idea of it having like a membership fee or something. So it's like you pay to be part of this adventurers club, and then you can't you can't do a certain host of activities. Like, you can't mark things or cash in for quests or whatever, unless you're a member. And theoretically, like you could cash in for a quest maybe just as you do it, like you or a mission or whatever. But there could be this aspect of like, I don't know, like some sort of investment into the guild,
Yeah.
and then maybe that investment money. So whatever this reward is, Boramy is talking about, maybe there's also like a cash money sort of layer on top of it as well. Like people could put bounties, or like it naturally could go,
Like
you know,
feedback.
membership
Yeah,
fees.
it can feed back into the members.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the scouts might just be there for this other, whatever this other value is. But the people who are cashing in rewards might be doing it for a combination of like financial gain as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, this is my that's my. I just like the. I really like the idea of kind of people putting putting a little bit of like stakes in the game to some extent.
Yeah.
Kind of saying that they're putting some money on the table to actually back up their goals, which I think things like house building will have as well, where people are putting coins down to have a plot, and they're starting to actually put a bit of risk on the table, a bit of like collateral.
Yeah. There's like there's a a consistent important investment being made. That's not that may not feel that's not quite as optional on the same scale as like trade decks are currently optional. Another interesting aspect of like of this meta structure, depending on its success, because it's something that how far we go with it depends a lot on how successful it is as a model. But whether or not it how it interacts with how guild members interact with non-guild members. So if the guild marks a quest, but a non-guild member completes that quest or kills those enemies, how that interacts with the guild, like maybe like it gets marked as like being as a quest being stolen. Yeah, and so then like it's almost like it creates this new social construct that exists that's maybe quite heavily forced in the sense that like if you're not part of the adventurers guild, because you're not paying like your 5 coin fee like every week or whatever,
every second,
then you should stay away from our quests. Like there's it's interesting. It could be a bit like confrontational, so we'll see how it pans out, but it's like there's stuff to explore there.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of these things I think will depend on the social structure of the server as well. Like that's the reason we have a setting for a lot of things, like the community storage, for instance. I could imagine the guild fee might be something that could have a setting associated with it. So if you wanted a bit more of a hardcore, rusty server, you could maybe even crank that up. If you want the vanilla experience, you could leave it wherever it is. But if you really want like a friendly, casual server, then maybe that gets toned down. But if it is tied into rewards, in toning it down, maybe if you set it to 0, maybe there's never financial rewards associated with the missions, in which case like you might go, actually it's better to keep a small fee so that it kind of operates better. Like these sorts of things will very much depend on the culture of the server and what people are going for.
Like a quick note, when we're talking about like an adventurers guild, it's not going to be like it may not be like a type of guild that everybody can make. It might just be kind of like one particular club, and you can still be part of your personal guild like within that. It's kind of like when we say adventurers guild, it's more like the adventurers government almost. And then you have your companies existing within that.
It could be cool if so you have the adventurers center, and if guilds are a thing in the game, it could be even cool to see like guild leaderboards. So I'm part of Guild A,
Yeah.
and so is Boramy, and we are the two main people doing all the adventures on the thing. So in the adventure center building, we can see Guild A is like top ranking
Yeah.
for whatever. Like that sort of thing could be cool, and it could create a sense of kind of competition between two groups of friends
Yeah.
who are on the same server, going who can be the best adventurers on that server.
Yeah, and it's a PVE competition as well, which is like a nice thing to have for a game that's for because I think
Until they're about to complete that quest, and then you backstab them,
yeah.
and they're still at mid-cell.
Well, what goes on in the quest, stays in the quest. But all that matters is whoever hands in the like the request, like the reward for it. There's that's like I do think like an adventure center type thing is the perfect place for us to kind of insert a lot of like your personal guild structure back into it. I think it's a nice kind of ecosystem in which all of these systems can live and interact and play a part in your world in a way that's very driven and like autonomous by your own account.
I think a little bit of a sidetrack, but I think we'll have a fair few of these buildings over time which kind of have their own world in them. Like theoretically, you could play the game without touching the adventurer's building by the sounds of things. Like the fact that even if there's a membership fee or not, like you can still kill these enemies and do all these things without participating in this bubble of the world. And I think there'll be other aspects like that, which like the idea of a library comes to mind, like a world where you could wrap yourself up. And I imagine some of the people who are keen on wiki work might enjoy this sort of aspect of the game where you can maybe uncover bits of lore or different trinkets of history and kind of collect them together in a library museum sort of idea. And it can become its own game in and of itself, I guess, is like where we're missing part of this thing, this relic, and we've only got 4 out of 5 parts of it, so we're trying to track down the 5th part of this relic and stuff like that. To a lot of players, maybe they don't care, but you can choose to care, I guess, is the thing. Like with all these things, you can choose to be like, this sounds fun to me, this sounds like a really engaging idea. I guess it is a little bit related. Like if I say tracking down relics is a little bit of a mission in the game, but it's those sorts of ideas that
like it's
kind of add on to the experience rather than like make themselves core to the experience.
It kind of just helps you be more integral to the functioning order of the world. Give you a bit more of like a permanent place and a like just like creating objective essentially for you as a player. It's like with a Township Tale being as like so open as it is, like kind of dabbing into these little niches of structure and order kind of helps you like just find stuff to do that you might enjoy. Like I know that I like whenever I think of a library, I love all the scenes in like the Harry Potter movies where they go to the library and they like slump down these giant books and then they're just sitting there like reading through stuff. Like it sounds like such a when you have to do it for school, it's so boring. But
presumably,
like the idea of studying is so good.
I was gonna say, Boramy likes the idea of slamming down books, but not really opening them and reading. I think it also adds this personal, kind of identity in the game as well. Like someone who's big in the scouting aspect of the Adventurers Guild. If you're wanting to know where something in the world is, there's quite a chance that that's a good person to talk to, and people will know. Like people will get to know Boramy's that guy on the server who kind of knows where everything is. Like if you're trying to find your way somewhere or you're trying to know where a particular item is that you can, like a good spot to harvest this particular plant or whatever, Boramy's a good guy to talk to. Whereas I might spend a lot of my time in the library, and I'm literally always just checking which books are we missing pages for, which trinkets are we kind of looking for, and they might give me insight into the lore about the game. So someone might come to me and go like, Joel, what the hell does like what's this mean? Like maybe it's not useful really to know, but they're just curious about the lore. And me being the person who spends all my time in the library is kind of an obvious person to ask that question to. And so there's this idea of just like in real life, you know, someone who, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you are good at computers and are constantly asked by people, you know, how do I fix this computer issue that you've never heard of? Because people just kind of learn if you're someone who deals with computers, you're a good person to ask computer questions to.
Yeah.
And in Township Tale right now, it's a bit tough to do that with anyone because everyone's kind of doing the same sort of things. There's not too many niches that you can that anyone.
I mean, there's no niches that don't feel very core at the moment.
Yeah, everything's super core. So everyone kind of knows about blacksmithing and knows about carpentry and stuff. So it'll be cool as more of these things pop up.
Yeah, like
Like
really fringe roles. Yeah.
yeah, if we heard about players who literally all they did was scouting or all they did was like library work and they couldn't even tell you how to use the blacksmith. Like they just it's just something they'd never like they know where the blacksmith is and they kind of toss stuff in and there's hammering and stuff, but they don't like they've never really done it.
Yeah.
I think that's a cool spot for the game to be in because that really is a sign that the world is expanding and getting its all these different avenues of gameplay.
Like I just came up with one cool because like building skill within these fringe roles is like really fun, I guess, and it makes it more rewarding. And like concepts of Joel being like an S rank scout becomes more valuable because he's developed skills. Something with scouting is if like when you scouted like the elite monsters and then you go back to submit it as a quest, you have to guess what the game will think or estimate what rank the game will think that quest is. And if you undershoot it, then you dial the rewards down a bit of completing it, even though the quest stays the same difficulty. And then if you overshoot it, then
I mean, it could be the same. Just the closer, it could be like the closer you are, the better value the reward becomes. But also, it also could affect your score as a scout. Like if you're reasonably close, your score goes up a bit. But if you're way off,
and the complexity of and that kind of depends on the complexity of however we're going to calculate the rank. You know, whether it's like amount of creatures, like maybe the biome that they're in, like distance across the landscape, like general danger of the surrounding area might be a factor. Like if we've got an idea of that through like the biome attributes, pretty much whatever stat we can kind of recognize in the vicinity, we can try and gauge it.
Yeah, it needs to be somewhat deducible. But if we made it so that these always spawned in a pack, for instance, like one of this elite always has a couple non-elites around it, then you could be like, okay, so it's only got like one or two guards, so it's quite a lower score. But if it's got a lot of guards, it's a higher score. And it might be tough to try and work out a formula that can be intuitive, but maybe to some extent, at the end of the day, it needs to be more gut than analytical anyway. It needs to be like I can see there's a lot of enemies, I can see the terrain's like this. My gut tells me it's up here, and that's what you have to go with. You have to go with your gut because you can't. Maybe there's no way you can do the maths. You can't go type of elite times 6 plus the number of enemies divided by 2 to the power of the terrain slope at that point, or something like that. You can really work out yourself. But we'll have to mess with this a lot if we go down.
I think we'll try and keep it more on the intuitive side, so that maybe you can like so that maybe the things that you can see you can calculate well. Like okay, there's this many enemies. It's this type of
Yeah.
enemy. It's got this type of like elite modifier effect. Let's like it's roughly like uh, uh, a 6C plus.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Sure.
use climbing rankings for stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. um,
All right, so I think
yeah.
like that kind of like we're 45 minutes in. I guess a bit of extra time on this because we were uh, excited about this idea. Um, so that's kind of ideas on missions and stories, or like quests, I guess. I hope you like this segment. If
I
you've
hope
got
you were recording
thoughts on it and
for me.
ideas, and if you want to share your excitement with us in the comments, feel free to. And then we're gonna move over to the Q&A section in just a moment. So thanks for this for half seen a bit.
Indeed.
All right, and we are on and live. Well, not live. I'm recording, not streaming. Just making that clear in case I do it again.
Um,
All right.
cool.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Q&A. Let's get started.
We got some questions. Will we get a machine to mass produce arrows?
You should answer that one, Joel, since you deleted Timo's version of that.
Timo made one as a kind of just mucking around thing. I didn't remember deleting it, but
I mean, so like, Timo's...
yeah, I don't know what the answer is because like technically, of course, we can do it. Like,
yeah, I mean, like, there is a like it is a like good idea, and I guess important. The main thing is we wanted to, it should have a cost beyond its resources for it to be automated, kind of like all machinery.
yeah.
It's not too difficult for us to make a version of it that requires like a bit of manual labor, a bit of like resource cost. But that's something that we might explore as like a smallish feature. I can see that being kind of worked on.
I can imagine turning a crank and seeing the parts come, like the shaft rises up and the ends come in.
If it's specifically for arrows, then yeah, like it depends on whether like you can mass produce anything if you just feed the resources in. But yeah.
Yeah, I personally I prefer the idea of something specifically for arrows, mainly because I don't see mass producing other things as too
valuable,
essential. Maybe that'll change over time, but
but I think general answer to that's yeah. At some point we will, and yeah.
Please. Oh, there's new updates. Please give us a wooden shaft to attach axe blades that is compatible with phantom, ornate, and knuckle hilts.
So people want to.
This is a request for a certain
weapon type,
handle type.
Yeah. So yeah, there is a.
I imagine this will exist one day. I haven't fully wrapped my head around what it's requesting, but the reason we haven't been adding more handles and blades and stuff is we really want things to have their own kind of place in the game. Like at some stage, I think we'll really sit down and we'll go like, what sort of pieces are missing? Like these sorts of pieces where it's just kind of a compatibility situation. But then, yeah, the other, like this is asking about a handle that doesn't really exist, but often there's questions about like when are we getting more axe heads or when are we getting more dagger types or sword types or whatever. And generally the answer is just there's no place in the game for them right now. Like they would just be like a reskin, and we really want to know. We really want to develop like reasons for adding stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything like so like I think this particular question is asking because they want to have the like maybe the effects of the Phantom Guard, or like the visuals of the ornate and knuckle type of look. I think instead of it being compatible with those parts for particularly axe blades, they might have their own kind of like nice looking guard attachment to it. Rather than like, I don't think we'll use a sword guard and attach an axe head to it.
Yeah.
That might not too much. That might not be too much of a thing. But I think eventually we'll give axes a bit of extra love the same way swords do.
Yeah, and from a like phantom ability perspective, when we actually work on enchanting and that sort of thing, I think there'll be ways that you'll be able to insert the phantom or into
any blade or guard or thing.
Guards, into blades or into other handles or whatever.
Yeah.
Is it possible we'll see an XP item such as a marble we can spend at a shrine to gain a small amount of experience? Basically, an item that gives you XP.
It's not super. It depends. Like, because everything can be given to other players by hand. We don't super like the idea of like itemizing experience in this way. A way I can think of it maybe is like there's lots of balance. Like it can overthrow balance a lot if we were to do something like that. I think like I think it's mostly leaning on no for that at the moment.
Yeah, something that we keep in mind is that like a new player can be given super good gear, but they can't be given heart flowers or XP. And so the thing that helps you distinguish yourself as an experienced player on a server is your XP and your health right now. And maybe over time there'll be more ways to show off your longevity. But we'll always, whether it be XP or whether we like, maybe if we add this item in the future, there'll be something else, but there'll always be something on servers that you can't instantly get as a new player. We don't want it ever to be the case that someone can join your server, have items and stuff thrown at them, and then they're literally equivalent to someone who has been playing on the server for months. Like, we never want that to be the case.
Yeah.
Okay, we got. Let me skip the house questions. We can do them all kind of at once, just so it makes a bit more sense. If and when instruments are added for music, will we be able to use MIDI files to play music? I don't think so. Maybe in the future when the game is moddable to some extent, if that future is a future that exists. At that point, obviously, anything goes. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see really when we work on a feature. If that sort of thing feels right, then maybe we'll explore it. But to start off with, at least, like, it's that sort of thing in and of itself is a fair bit of work. To start off with, I would love to just have a simple
record player.
I don't want to overcomplicate the feature. I just want to be able to like be in the tavern and whack a record onto the player and put the pin down or whatever you do.
I think they call it putting the stinger down. It's like a scorpion tail.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and then the scorpion.
That'd be a cool fantasy way of making a record player. You need a scorpion tail, and that's what you use to.
But yeah. So, I'm not going to say no for a fact because we can definitely explore these things, and as anyone who knows what a MIDI file is, they'll know. They'll know that it's much safer to accept MIDI files than it is to accept WAV
files. Yeah.
So that's why I'm not saying no definitely, because I don't think we'd ever support WAV files because that's just too flexible. But
no.
but yeah, like it is it's such a kind of specific thing. We'll really have to assess it when we get there.
Yeah.
It's a cool idea. Don't get me wrong. We'll just have to see if it fits. Um, will we ever get a bomb bag? Something like the quiver, but for different explosives.
Um, it's it's possible. Like I think it's another niche item that I think there's no reason why there's no room for it. So definitely probable. Part of the slight, I guess, the thing that we would like out of a bomb bag is to maybe store multiple types of explosives in there.
Yeah. Same with quivers.
Yeah.
I think still our general gist is.
And so having we just need to kind of work out how to nicely choose which stuff you're taking out of your bag or quiver at that point.
I mean, we do have stack sizes now, so quiver, I guess, does have a quiver. For the longest time, people kept going, "Why would I use a quiver?"
yeah, but now it makes more sense to have a quiver if you can carry 90 arrows in it.
Yeah.
But having but maybe you want your red arrows and your blue arrows both in the same quiver, or a different a better quiver that has more slots. We'll see. Maybe we can do some experiments on how it feels to interact with them, because the issue is overcrowding the interaction space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of, in my mind, the way the quiver mechanic works is like the orientation of my hand. Like a natural grab out might be slot 1, but if you turn your hand awkwardly, it's like the secondary slot. And so I could have my normal arrows, and then I can awkwardly turn my hand a bit to grab out. It doesn't need to be, depending on we could tune the fidelity, but I imagine it's like you're grabbing a different kind of spot. But yeah, well, those sorts of things are definitely on the table. As for different bomb types, we don't really have. We have
there's dynamite, Tara shards, and the Gotera seedling orbs, and the healing pods.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay. Well, I think we've answered that question. Sorry, I'm just skipping all the housing questions. It's another housing question. I think we answered that. Are we going to add some sort of prestige to the game?
Okay, do you know what that means? I'm curious if you know what that means. Because I know what it means, but I think I know what it means, but I'm curious if you know.
I feel like I've played games which have prestige as a keyword. When I think of prestige, I just think of I don't know, you're playing Call of Duty and you've got a quadra kill or something and you get some prestige. I don't know. And then you spend your prestige points to call in a helicopter. That's how COD works, right?
You're pretty close in the fact that prestige is a term from Call of Duty. But the rest of it's wrong. So I think maybe this is what people are referring to from this question. Prestige is when you reach level, you rank up your multiplayer levels in the at least Call of Duty 4 through.
It's when your back change.
Yeah, so when you max out your level, you can choose to restart, and then you've got a different kind of banner symbol, but then you re-go through the progression of unlocking guns and kill streaks and stuff like that, and all you're doing it is for the extra badge.
So it's like a purely cosmetic replay ability. It's how many times have I finished this game?
It's kind of being even if the level cap is 50, you're level 500 because you've done it 10 times.
How do you know this person is talking about this?
Because it's the only thing that makes sense to me in terms of the term of adding some because the meaning of prestige is otherwise just fanciness.
I do think it could be cool if something we talked about at some stage is having a title system where hitting the top of like doing something like killing 1,000 Spriggals could give you the Spriggal Slayer title. So when someone shows names, they can see Joel Spriggal Slayer, and I could choose. I unlock titles over time, and I can choose which ones to show. But like systems like this theoretically could tie into something like that, where there's a way to like, I don't know, lose all your blacksmithing XP to unlock a title or something,
Yeah.
or these sorts of mechanics could tie into. It could be interesting if like you you could reach the top of the blacksmithing tree, and or once you've spent like a set number of points in the blacksmithing tree, if you could buy like a permanent blacksmithing slot or something, or like unlock, and then you can spend that on a blacksmithing skill
Oh,
or
right,
something,
yeah.
but then you lose all your blacksmithing XP. So you're back down to that one free skill
Mm,
you have that doesn't take up a slot
yeah.
or something like that. I don't, it would be like, it's really the sort of thing that we'd have to
I mean,
kind of assess
yeah.
the pros and cons of. If
Like
it's
a
purely aesthetic, then
Yeah, I think having the old like I think once like the entire skill system is properly established and we feel like it's like the concept of prestige is very much an additive thing. Like it kind of goes at the end of like the development line because it's like okay, all
yeah,
the systems are here. Like how much extra reward does having this prestige system provide? Um, and then you can kind of gauge any kind of imbalance it might cause independently. And kind of
yeah.
like in a safe environment, like without
I
us doing prestige now and then be like, oh shit, like that's really gonna screw up all these other systems coming next.
I think it's really important that we fully, whether it be with skills, whether it be with something else in the game. I think it's really important that we um, know exactly why we're doing it. Like I could imagine if this was like a complete character wipe, for instance, like your health goes back down to zero, your XP goes back down to zero, or whatever. We would really need to know why we're doing this, but also in the future, if we add in, like for instance, we added climbing into the game, suddenly the question is, is it wiping climbing as well? And then as the game progresses, that's probably going to be more and more stuff being wiped, meaning the prestige system at this stage might be quite
Quite
challenging
drastic.
or
Yeah,
whatever, but in the future, it's just absurdly ridiculous
yeah,
to do it. So it's much better that we have the game and then we can go, what's a cool twist that we could
yeah,
apply to the game?
yeah. Cause yeah, then we can gauge the like the reward you get out of prestiging against all of the things you're sacrificing. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Will we in the future be able to see what's in a inside a bag that's in a market store?
Yeah,
Uh,
potentially.
okay, I was going to say I would rather you couldn't sell bags with items in them personally. I think some sort of like, I reckon kits, like we talked about, like um, a
Like like a cartographer's kit.
cartographer. Thank you. A cartographer's kit, I think, would be cool to be able to sell with its items, and maybe it shows open, or maybe you could only sell it if it's full or something. Like there's ways like those sorts of things could be sold with items. But personally, I think bags shouldn't. Like it's obviously a design sort of opinion, but personally, I think bags shouldn't be able to sell with items because I like the idea of um, people actually selling bags, like genuinely going, I've made a bag, I'm selling this bag. Whereas right now, there's always this kind of like thing about whether or not you're getting items in it.
I
But
mean,
I
I
don't,
mean, I
I
think
don't
that's
know.
why the question is whether or not we can see what the contents of a bag. Um, it
Yeah,
is
but then
like
to me, it's just a bit odd buying a bundle of items, is I think.
I mean, like
I
yeah, but part of my like I guess the slightly strange thing is that maybe we want a better way of for people to sell starter kits beyond preparing a bag. I mean, it's a very emergent way,
Oh yeah,
which is
starter.
enjoyable. Um, but the we'll see. Like it, like maybe it's doable, and I would like to. We might experiment with it. Um, yeah.
Um, I'm not sure if we answered this. Can we make a harder climbing tower?
We
Um,
can.
we definitely could.
So yeah, there's elements of a harder climbing tower that might come from um, stamina upgrades to some degree. Uh, that's not going to happen anytime soon because I think the stamina system is going to tie into some other mechanics in the future, and so
Yeah,
choosing how, like, in which form you're um, upgrading your stamina, that's actually a more global feature than just climbing. Um, like, might be kind of, I guess, short-sighted in terms of thinking for us.
I think like it's very nice that the tower is a kind of tailored experience, but I also like um, kind of the culture of like in real life, a lot of rock climbing, outdoor rock climbing is people finding rocks and kind of going, this is a difficult course. Like I couldn't get to the top of this. Could you try and see if you can? And then people can kind of set each other challenges in the natural world. And I think having a little bit more of that could be cool rather than it always needing to be down to like official climbing courses. Like there can be aspects of like people trying to finding particular parts of the world that are really cool to climb, or even using the tower to be like, can you try and complete this section of the tower without using those grips, for instance? And then suddenly it's like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I can't do that, and then you've kind of got your own challenge from there. It's definitely less official than an official climbing tower, new climbing tower, but I think um, there's plenty of room. Like the game has no shortage of climbing challenges already. So like you can set yourself new challenges, and obviously speed running is probably the most common way people have done that so far. But simply saying, I don't know, like I would be keen to see who can do the tower in the least number of grabs, for instance. Like speed aside, who can do it in the least number of grabs, for instance. And that's a challenge that is in the game by default, but isn't explicitly in the game, I guess. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
there's okay, the rest of the questions are housing questions.
All right.
So we're just gonna smash through these real quick, I guess. Um, uh, wait, it says new updates. No, they're still all housing questions. Okay. First of all, will housing, sorry, I'm just learning to read. With housing, will we be able to make furniture like couches, tables, chairs, bars, or even weapon stands? And we'll have things are
Will we have things that are in town like barrels
this
instead of the cooking
this
house?
is not entirely a problem on my end. And will we have things that are in town like barrels and stands at the cooking house, or crafting benches at the crafting house that we'll be able to put in our houses?
Uh, yes to most of those questions. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
I personally love the idea of building a bar and having barrels behind it.
Yep.
And
Like house building is not just the structure of things; it includes furniture, and we will have functional furniture.
um, with the housing system that's planned, would a player be able to use their plot to set up a shop ran by said player when online, making money? Uh, Basically, they want to make money not just using the market stalls.
Yep. And yep, the answers to that is completely yes. You will definitely be able to set up a store.
I think something that we will quite likely explore is the idea of even building kind of a market stall, like a trade deck, as we call them, in your house that maybe only you can use, or people who live on that plot can use. And that way, out the front of my house, I could sell some of my goods or whatever, and people could visit my house to buy stuff. The benefit of the public kind of shared market stores, I guess, would be just the
foot traffic,
the kind of advertising value.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason the person who sells apples at your corner store doesn't sell them out the front of his house. It's because having everything at your local supermarket is much better odds of sale than will there be different sized house plots? For example, will some plots be able to build mansions while others just a simple house? Will there be plots outside of town, such as mountain pass, dust bowl, or plains?
There will be different sized house plots, so you will be able to build homes of different scale, and there'll be lots of factors to we are going to try and make the plot experience as interesting as possible for players, so that there's a lot of kind of real estate scouting value when you're choosing where to build your house. And that will include kind of like the general location of where it is. Most houses, I'm pretty sure, well, actually, almost all of the houses are not going to be in like the town center area that you're playing most of. They're going to be a little bit outside, kind of like, if you think of the current town as like the CBD, you're going to be living in one of the outer suburbs.
I was wondering how much Boramy was going to say. So plots are what Boramy and I have currently been working on for the most part over the past week, our first week back. Here's my advertising for supporters. We have dropped a couple spoilers for supporters, showing off kind of the theme or the style of what plots are. They won't just be a concrete slab. They have a little bit more going on. I'm not going to say any more. You can check it out if you want to. But yeah, so that plots is what we've been working on, and it's pretty cool to kind of see that coming along. There's going to be I'm just going to say now, there's going to be a lot of factors like that make you choose whether or not a plot is suitable for you, and it will definitely add a lot of character and uniqueness to your building. Like I don't think you'll ever have two plots next to each other where it's reasonable to build the same building on them. Like there's too much. There'll be too much diversity to really build the same thing over and over again. There'll definitely be a lot of character to these things. With houses, we should be able to tame creatures and help us in battle like Spriggles and Schmeechis. That way, they can have more use than just being there to live and suffer. This has nothing to do with houses. I left it till now because it started with houses, and I didn't read the rest of the question. I can tell you now, enemies helping you in battle is not something that we have planned for the housing update. We'd love to explore at some stage, like the idea of creatures, maybe like if any creature taming were to be in the house update, it would be to like pull a cart or something, maybe to help you move goods. But
like combat between enemies is a bit no, it's not coming with housing update. It'll be its own kind of major update once we have like tameable creatures and that'll fight with you and like kind of engage their AI in that way.
I don't think Schmeechis are really in a position to be helping you in combat.
There's just a swarm of Schmeechis that just smother enemies.
But yeah, I definitely I think it would.
The way that the glowing and the fisticuffs ones fight is that they throw themselves in the mouths of their enemy to poison them and kill them.
Yeah, I do think it would be cool if you know a natural next step to housing is like the idea of having pets or something, and I do think things like that could be cool.
Yeah,
but Our initial focus on houses is going to be, getting a plot, building a house, furnishing, and furnishing in kind of both an aesthetic and a functional way. Um, there's the obviously the potential of houses is quite infinite, but I think it's important for us to try and focus on getting as much value from our effort as possible, whereas adding in too much of these really specific complex systems might end up kind of reducing the amount that we can actually do. I would rather have like 20 different cool pieces of furniture that have some function than being able to have a tank with a Shmichi in it, but no other furniture in the house at all. Like, yeah. And I'm sure that's something that people might want to debate with, but that's the way it is. Will there be a farming specific update making it easy? Oh, this has nothing to do with houses.
Yeah.
Making it easier to farm things like onions.
Yes, there will be. Farming's probably gonna happen. Like it's got some similarities with how housing is gonna work, in terms of like plots and growing stuff. So that'll come sometime after housing is done.
Is there a planned release date for housing, or is it still undetermined?
Still undetermined, but this year hopefully.
Yeah. We we internally have our roadmap of goals, and we're going to do our best to stick to that. But
yeah, it's very not safe for us to try and publicize that, because it too many hopes and expectations into something that like is really it's like an intense challenge for us to meet those goals. Like obviously we schedule within reason, but it puts too much pressure, I think, on us to believe that this deadline is inflexible because everybody knows about it.
With the forest, I think Boramy set a date, maybe 4 weeks out or 2 weeks out or something, and then we had to push it back another 2 weeks. But that gives you an idea that even when we're right near the end, like we still weren't, we still had issues like exactly pinpointing when the release would be. Like these things can have hurdles that are really hard to
that are unforeseen.
Yeah, and the other there's two more things kind of on this point. The first thing is I already forgot what the first thing was. The second thing is that we do hope to kind of release aspects of this as we go, whether that be in the main game or just in a supporter kind of preview branch. We hope to be able to kind of have a fair bit of a feedback loop in terms of where we're at and what people and getting an idea of what players think about stuff. And we'll definitely have more news on that as we go. And the first thing was, I still can't remember. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know, but we'll try. The second thing is still important. We'll try and release things as we go, to some extent. House building itself will likely be one big update, but maybe there's little things like if we have to make changes to some form of resource collecting, for instance, maybe that could come into the game. Kind of similar to how with the forest, I think new tree types or tree growth or something, some of those sorts of things kind of made it into the game.
Yeah, tree types, tree growth, the molds, I think came out with the forest update, like the Hebius molds.
Yeah, but what some things came out before the forest
like
update.
archery changes came out before.
Yeah.
Like which was like kind of like a stat change based off wood types that played a role.
So maybe some of those sorts of things might happen as well. But yeah, we'll give a release date when we're closer. to the point where we can, but also I think with the supporter branches, you'll get a good idea of where things are at. I'm not sure, maybe Boramy can clarify, but I believe our policy on supporters streaming there, maybe it'll just be down to each supporter preview branch, but even if you're not a supporter, maybe there'll be chances for you to get a glimpse of house building progression. We'll
see.
We'll see. I think it'll depend on the update, but
yeah. Like I'm leaning on yes at the moment, but yeah, we'll see. We'll let people know once they're out.
Yeah, I think it'll really depend on the
content of
the preview, because if it's a mostly visual experience, then we'll probably say no to letting people stream it. But if it's a very practical, hands-on experience, then we might say yes, because to truly experience it, you'll have to jump in yourself. What style of architecture will the houses be built in? Is it just what we gather out in the style of the blacksmith?
There's going to be quite a lot of architecture variation based on what materials you choose and what kind of pieces you're adding to accent your house. The town buildings are still going to look like how the town buildings look in terms of architecture, and that might be what we consider like the some of the easiest resources you can maybe get. I think wood might actually be more prevalent, and I think that's why most people are going to start their houses out of. But
well, we're going to have lots of discussions about this as we go. But my personal preference is that sandstone becomes a lot more abundant as soon as house building is out. Right now, it would be kind of frustrating if we put a lot of sandstone throughout the caves, because you use it for the sandstone bridge, and I think that's it, to be honest. So sandstone, once you collect all the sandstone around town and then a couple layers of the caves, you can rebuild that bridge, but then sandstone kind of loses its value. Whereas once house building is out, I think it'll make sense. The reason this town is made of sandstone is because the town is built on quite an abundant resource of sandstone.
Yep. So that's all the questions. Yep.
We, as I mentioned earlier, we will likely at some stage, quite likely not in the next couple, I imagine, but we'll see, be doing an Altacast on house building. We're happy to still answer questions as we go, but maybe we will reiterate and kind of dive into some of these things a bit deeper when we do that.
Like house building might be, maybe it'll be a bit different Altacast that'll be a bit longer. This one's already running quite a while, so we like it might even be like a multi-parter.
I was going to say it might not be bad to do a series on house building where we do one which is about I don't know, we could do a whole Altacast on like plot ownership, which I imagine would be one of the later ones once we know what we're doing. And then there could be like an earlier one on the styles and resources and aesthetic of house building.
Like I think that'd be cool to break it up. I think it'll let us get into more specifics and kind of riff off a bit more.
It'll also, I think something that's a bit odd about Altacast is we're always answering questions about stuff we're not talking about. Like we talk about exploring, but obviously the questions, if anyone has questions for exploring, they're going to be in next Altacast when we're not talking about, not exploring, like missions. They're going to be in next Altacast when we're not talking about missions. So it might be nice to have a bit of a house building series where the questions are very much focused still on the discussion that's continuing on. So,
all right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We did answer every question that's in the Q&A, so please leave us more in the link below. And don't forget to let us know what your thoughts are on missions and ideas and just hype excitement about that sort of concept. And yep, we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.